Of all the people God created and Shaitan led astray, only a few have discovered the center of the universe, where there is no good and no evil, no past and no future, no I and no thou, no war and no reason for war, just an endless sea of calm. What they found there was so beautiful that they lost their ability to speak. The angels, taking pity on them, offered two choices. If they wished to regain their voices, they would have to forget everything they had seen, albeit a feeling of absence would remain deep in their hearts. If they preferred to remember the beauty, however, their minds would become so befuddled that they would not be able to distinguish the truth from the mirage. So the handful who stumbled upon that secret location, unmarked on any map, returned either with a sense of longing for something, they knew not what, or with myriads of questions to ask. Those who yearned for completeness would be called the lovers, and those who aspired to knowledge, the learners. That is what Master Sinan used to tell the four of us, his apprentices. He would regard us closely, his head cocked to one side, as if trying to see through our souls. I knew I was being vain, and vanity was unfit for a simple boy such as I, but every time my master would relate this story I believed he intended his words for me rather than for the others. His stare would linger for a moment too long on my face, as if there were something he expected from me. I would avert my gaze, afraid of disappointing him, afraid of the thing I could not give him, though what that was I never figured out. I wonder what he saw in my eyes. Had he predicted that I would be second to none with respect to learning, but that I, in my clumsiness, would fail miserably in love? I wish I could look back and say that I have learned to love as much as I loved to learn. But if I lie, there could be a cauldron boiling for me in hell tomorrow, and who can assure me tomorrow is not already on my doorstep, now that I am as old as an oak tree, and still not consigned to the grave? There were 6 of us. The master, the apprentices and the white elephant. We built everything together: mosques, bridges, madrasas, caravanserais, almshouses, aqueducts. It was so long ago that my mind softens even the sharpest features, melting memories into liquid pain. The shapes that float into my head whenever I hark back to those days could well have been drawn later on, to ease the guilt of having forgotten their faces. Yet I remember the promises we made, and then failed to keep, every single one of them. It's odd how faces, solid and visible as they are, evaporate, while words, made of breath, stay. They have slipped away, one by one. Why it is that they perished and I survived to this feeble age only God and God alone knows. I think about Istanbul every day. People must be walking now across the courtyards of the mosques, not knowing, not seeing. They would rather assume that the buildings around them had been there since the time of Noah. They were not. We raised them. Muslims and Christians, craftsmen and galley slaves, humans and animals, day upon day. But Istanbul is a city of easy forgettings. Things are written in water over there, except the works of my master, which are written in stone. Beneath one stone, I buried a secret. Much time has gone by, but it must still be there, waiting to be discovered. I wonder if anyone will ever find it. If they do, will they understand? This nobody knows, but at the bottom of one of the hundreds of buildings that my master built rests hidden the center of the universe. Agra, India, 1632 Istanbul, the 22nd of December 1574. It was past midnight when he heard a fierce growl from the depths of the dark. He recognized it immediately. It came from the largest cat in the Sultan's palace, a Caspian tiger with amber eyes and golden fur. His heart missed a beat as he wondered what, or who, could have disturbed the beast. They should all be sound asleep at so late an hour. The humans, the animals, the jinn. In the city of 7 hills, other than the watchmen on the streets making their rounds, only 2 kinds of people would be awake now: those who were praying and those who were sinning. Jahan, too, was up and about, working. Working is prayer for the likes of us, his master often said. It's the way we commune with God. Then how does he respond to us? Jahan had once asked, way back when he was younger. By giving us more work, of course. If that were to be believed, he must be forging a rather close relationship with the Almighty, Jahan had thought to himself, since he toiled twice as hard to ply 2 trades, instead of 1. He was a mahout and a draughtsman. Dual crafts he pursued. Yet he had a single teacher whom he respected, admired and secretly wished to surpass. His master was Sinan, the chief royal architect. Sinan had hundreds of students, thousands of laborers and many more adherents and acolytes. For all that, he had only 4 apprentices. Jahan was proud to be among them, proud but, inwardly, also confused. The master had chosen him, a simple servant, a lowly elephant tamer, when he had plenty of gifted novices at the palace school. The knowledge of this, instead of swelling his self-esteem, filled him with apprehension. It preyed on his mind, almost despite himself, that he might disappoint the only person in life who believed in him. His latest assignment was to design a hammam. The master's specifications were clear. A raised marble basin, which would be heated from below. Ducts inside the walls to allow the smoke to exit. A dome resting on squinches. 2 doors opening onto 2 opposite streets so as to prevent men and women from seeing one another. On that ominous night, this was what Jahan was working on, seated at a rough-hewn table in his shed in the Sultan's menagerie. Leaning back, frowning, he inspected his design. He found it coarse, devoid of grace and harmony. As usual, drawing the ground plan had been easier than drawing the dome. Though he was past 40, the age when Muhammad had become prophet, and skilled in his craft, he still would rather dig foundations with his bare hands than have to deal with vaults and ceilings. He wished there could be a way to avoid them altogether, if only humans could live exposed to the skies, open and unafraid, watching the stars and being watched by them, with nothing to hide. Frustrated, he was about to start a new sketch, having pilfered paper from the palace scribes, when he again heard the tiger. His back stiffened, his chin rose as he stood transfixed, listening. It was a sound of warning, bold and blood-curdling, to an enemy not to draw any closer. Quietly, Jahan opened the door and stared into the surrounding gloom. Another snarl rose, not as loud as the first but just as menacing. All at once, the animals broke into a clamor. The parrot screeched in the dark. The rhinoceros bellowed. The bear grunted in angry response. Nearby the lion let out a roar, which was met with a hiss from the leopard. Somewhere in the background was the constant, frantic thumping that the rabbits made with their hind legs whenever they were terrified. Though only 5 in number, the monkeys raised the racket of a battalion, screaming, bawling. The horses, too, began to whinny and shuffle about in their stables. Amid the frenzy, Jahan recognized the elephant's rumble, brief and listless, reluctant to join the tumult. Something was frightening the creatures. Throwing a cloak onto his shoulders, Jahan grabbed the oil lamp and slipped into the courtyard. The air was crisp, tinged with a heady perfume of winter flowers and wild herbs. No sooner had he taken a couple of steps than he noticed some of the tamers huddled together under a tree, whispering. When they saw him coming, they glanced up expectantly. But Jahan did not have information, only questions. "What is happening? The beasts are nervous," said Dar the giraffe tamer, sounding nervous himself. "It might be a wolf," Jahan suggested. It had happened before. 2 years ago, one bitter winter eve, wolves had descended on the city, prowling the neighborhoods of Jews, Muslims and Christians alike. A few had crept in through the gates, God knew how, and attacked the Sultan's ducks, swans and peacocks, creating mayhem. For days on end they had had to clear bloody feathers from under the bushes and brambles. Yet now the city was neither covered in snow nor was it exceptionally cold. Whatever it was that was agitating the animals, it came from inside the palace. "Check every corner," said Olive the lion tamer, a hulk of a man with flaming hair and a curling mustache in the same shade. Not a single decision was taken around here without his knowledge. Mettlesome and muscular, he was held in high regard by all the servants. A mortal who could command a lion was someone even the Sultan could admire a little.